Yesterday, we talked about the house I was too afraid to buy.
The $835,000 mistake that defined my early years. But today, I want to take you back inside that one-bedroom apartment in Pittsburgh and look at a different kind of wealth. I want to talk about my mother and that kitchen drawer full of string. To a kid growing up, that drawer was a joke. It was a symbol of being poor, of being less than, and of a woman who was stuck in the trauma of 1933. I used to think she was crazy for saving every rubber band and every button. But when she passed away, I had to empty that apartment, and I had to go through that drawer. And what I found underneath the string changed the way I understood money, power, and the concept of enough for the rest of my life. Most people spend their lives trying to fill a bucket that has a giant hole in the bottom. They chase a higher salary, a bigger bonus, or a better title, all while the waste in their life drains them dry. My mother never made more than $15,000 a year in her life.
She was a seamstress and a part-time clerk.
But she understood something that most of the millionaires I met in my 3D animation career never did. And wealth isn't just what you earn, it's what you refuse to throw away. That string drawer wasn't a sign of poverty. It was a sign of absolute ironclad control. It was her way of telling the world that it couldn't take anything else from her. When you value everything, even a 10-cent piece of string, you become very difficult to break.
Think about the subscriptions you don't use.
The food you throw away because you ordered too much, and the clothes you buy just to feel a spark of joy for 10 minutes. My mother didn't have subscriptions. She had discipline and never, ever spent $1 just because she had it. Every time I laughed at her string, she was actually building a fortress. She knew that if you don't respect the pennies, the dollars will eventually disrespect you. She was playing a long game that spanned 40 years, while I was playing a short game that lasted until my next paycheck.
When we opened her bank books after the funeral, my jaw didn't just drop, I nearly fell over.
On that tiny income, she had quietly accumulated $200,000 in savings. In the 1980s, that was a king's ransom. She did it through zero waste and the magic of compound interest on small, consistent amounts. She didn't need a high-growth stock portfolio or a fancy financial advisor. She just needed that string drawer mindset. While her neighbors were buying new cars and upgrading their furniture, but she was buying shares of the company that made the steel for those cars.
But it wasn't just about the bank account. The string drawer was a response
to the day her father came home in 1929 and told them they had to leave their house. That memory of the tent in the middle of a Pittsburgh winter never left her. And for her, saving string was a ritual of safety. It was her way of saying, if the world stops working again, I will have what I need to tie things together. I used to think it was a mental illness, and I realized too late. It was a survival strategy that she never had to use, but the peace of mind it gave her was worth more than $1 million. She slept better in a one-bedroom apartment with a full-string drawer than I did in a big house with a mortgage.
And one night she caught me throwing away a shirt because a button had popped off. She made me learn to sew it back on. She didn't get angry. She just picked the shirt out of the trash, cleaned it up, and put it right back in the drawer. Walked to her drawer and found a button she'd saved from a coat in 1954. Within 5 minutes, the shirt was fixed. She looked at me and said, "Bobby, if you throw away things that are still useful, eventually you'll find yourself being thrown away too." She saw the connection between how we treat our possessions and how we treat ourselves. If you view everything as disposable, you eventually view your time and your relationships as disposable too. She wasn't just saving string, she was saving her connection to the value of things. If you adopted just 10% of the string drawer mindset, your life would change in 6 months. If you stop the leak of small wastes, you'd find that you don't actually need that high-stress promotion as much as you think. You'd find that your one-bedroom apartment life is actually quite luxurious. My mother's $200,000 didn't come from a lottery win or a lucky break. It came from the 40 years she spent refusing to be a victim of the disposable culture. She died with a full heart and a full drawer, and she didn't owe a single person a single penny. The real secret I found in that drawer wasn't the money, though. It was a small notebook tucked under the bundles of twine. In it, she had written down every time she had helped a neighbor. With that string or a button or a piece of cloth, fixed Mrs. Gable's hem, it would say, "Lent string to Mr. Henderson for his garden tomatoes." Now, the drawer wasn't just for her. It was a resource for the entire community. Because she didn't waste, she had the surplus to be generous. Most people can't be generous because they are too busy trying to keep their own heads above water, especially with how things are now. They just don't know where to turn. My mother was an anchor for the whole block and she saved what everyone else threw away.